Hello, everyone. Well, the flag land base continues to leak, actually leak more than ever before. It's like pouring out of there. I can almost not keep up with it. I had a whole stack of notes on my desk this week from all the information that was being fed to me. So I thought I'd take a little bit of time out to kind of fill you in. Because it's all written down, I'm going to have to look down a bit and read it to you because there's no way I could just pull it off the top of my head in any kind of nice sequence for you. So for those guys that are familiar with the Flag Land Base and Sea Org members that work there, they'll find this of interest. For those people who were not associated with Scientology and not associated with the Flag Land Base, they might find the first part of it being a little bit boring and stuff. But I'll tell you, at the end, some information came out this week that is a bit of a bombshell. And the people that were telling me that were leaking, they didn't understand the significance of this bombshell because they're still inside, they're still in the Sea Org inside the Flag Land Base. They don't have the viewpoint of what's happening on the outside, what's happening with some of the legal cases, this kind of stuff. So when they brought this thing up, I was like, say what? I had to ask some more questions about it, and to make sure I was getting this. So I'll tell you that at the end. First, I'm just going to kind of run through almost like news. Like here's the latest and greatest. I'll start with deaths. I remember the last video I did on leaks. I covered that Paul Kellerhouse, known as PK, who was the security chief for Flag, had died, and I got some additional questions from people like how did he die, this kind of thing. So I figured I'd just add that in. He died 2 weeks after getting the vaccine. He had a heart attack. It was sudden, and he died. That's kind of the long and short of it. The wife that he had, Yvonne, she had divorced him some years earlier, like a few years earlier, and she had moved back to Switzerland with her mom, who I believe was an OT8. She was a bigwig in Clearwater at one time amongst all the Scientologists, and she's gone back to Switzerland, and Yvonne joined her. Ruthie Humphrey, she died of cancer. Dusty Rhodes, he was doing FESing for a while. He died of cancer. Just by the way, a lot of the old-time guys that were in the technical department of Scientology at Flag, when they got real old, they were put on reduced schedules and brought in like 4 or 5 hours a day to do folder error summaries, which is pretty much going through people's pre-clear folders and writing down, noting down any kind of information about things that the person that was supervising their auditing would want to know. It's called FESing, folder error summary. And so Dusty was doing that before he died of cancer. There were 2 class 9s, which I didn't know these people, but one's name was Mayomi and another was Mike Ropey. Both of them died of cancer, for anybody who knew them. Marianne Colombe, she was a word clear at the AO. She died. Brian Dunn, who had been around for many, many years, he was doing the same thing with the FESing until he died about 5 years ago. A girl named Maya, she was the director of tours. She died of cancer. I didn't know her, but for those who did. Paul Lipschitz, who was a Flag Registrar, he had gotten COVID. He spent 7 days in one of those machines that helps him breathe, a ventilator, and he literally died, and they brought him back to life, and he did survive it, and he's still there with his wife named Carly. Allegedly, she had 2 abortions, which she's still not happy about, and blames the organization to this day for being pressured to abort twice, allegedly. All right, so then I'm going to cover some of the old and sick. These are people that have gotten old or sick, and they're on a reduced schedule. Apparently, what I'm being told is there's approximately 200 of these people on reduced schedules or totally on no schedule. Like they're so sick, so old, they don't work at all. And they're living at the hacienda. They got people kind of say, yeah, they're the people that take care of the cats. They kind of hang out. And I'm also told that Their life is very restricted. They can't leave the hacienda. They can't go shopping outside. They're basically pretty much held just to be out of sight, out of mind at the hacienda. It's not a nice life. Apparently, Shelley Raby is kind of like the person that oversees them, takes care of the old people, runs stuff back and forth for them, gets them to their medical appointments, this kind of thing. She was doing that when I was there like 20 years ago, and she's still doing that. Her husband, Clive Raby, who was one of the top executives at the Flag Service Organization, the FSO, apparently he has been having problems with his heart, and he's kind of on a reduced schedule, and they have him still working, helping to get promote and get more people through Solo Knots, trying to reach that 10,000 people through Solo Knots game they've always been playing. Let's see. Ann Rhodes, she's part-time doing FESing. Art Webb, apparently he's got some kind of a problem with his spine, and he's not doing well medically, and he's doing part-time CSing, FESing kind of stuff. Liz Brenna, she's on a reduced schedule. Warren Brenna, same deal. They're both working apparently in the staff training org. They have like a separate organization from Flag Crew, which takes care of the hotels and restaurants, and a Flag Service organization, which delivers the Scientology technology courses and ordering to Scientology public. There's a separate organization, which is called the Staff Training Org, which is it's located in the Coachman Building. And it's there just for the training and ordering of staff members. So that's where they're working. We got Peter Scott. He's doing some folder paging on a part-time schedule. Janice Scott, she's on medical lines. She's, a part-timer at the hacienda. Rick Sheehy, he's over at the Sandcastle as a course administrator, like taking care of paperwork and routing forms and things like that at the Sandcastle, and he's on a part-time schedule. Charlie and Stephanie Bills, they had been working up in New York on external registration lines for the Flag Service Organization for many years, and a few years ago, actually quite a few years ago now, they were returned to Flag, and Stephanie, she's apparently lost a lot of weight. She's not doing that great medically, and she's on a reduced schedule. But Charlie and Stephanie are both back at Flag and have been for some time. Iris Bolger and her husband Bob, I covered them a little bit on my last video. They're both, very old at this point. They're both on medical lines, reduced schedules. The additional data that I got was that Ivis had a stroke about a year ago, and she survived that, but she's not doing that great physically, as you could expect. Bonnie Wubin, she's full-time at the hacienda, on medical lines, and Harriet Foster, the same for her. So that gives you a little bit of information about the old and the sick at Flag, which many of you guys probably know. So now I get into some general information. The parents of Flavio Lugli wrote me and asked me if I would check up to see what's happening with him, because he was forced to disconnect from his parents well over a decade ago, and they're concerned about how he's doing. So I checked that out, and him and his wife are both doing fine. Flavio's working as a superpower auditor. He recently completed OT1, and by now he might be done with 2 and on to 3. As we know, they can go pretty fast at that point. Anyway, Flavio's doing fine. His wife's doing fine. Judy Saunders, after she got off the Rehabilitation Project Force, which is the it's kind of like a slave labor camp. She completed that after she didn't complete it. She got let out of there when they canceled the RPF because it was getting so much bad PR. So she got out of there finally, and now she's working at the Sandcastle as a director of processing DFP. Chris Sheehy, She is running a dry cleaning service for staff out of the old book warehouse. She's apparently been doing that for about 8 years. Let's see. Yeah, apparently the old book warehouse moved to the old folder warehouse, and a whole new huge warehouse was gotten for the folders to be kept in. When public and staff also, when they do counseling, notes are taken about everything they speak about, and all that stuff goes into a folder called a PC or pre-clear folder, and there's like freaking, I don't know, maybe almost 1 million freaking folders that have accumulated over the years at Flag. It's huge, a huge amount, a huge warehouse is there to hold those folders, and yeah, so anyway, they got a new folder warehouse that's super, super big, I'm told. Let's see. I checked on Ben Rinder, who is the son of Mike Rinder. I heard that he's doing fine, him and his wife. Ben still has the cancer on his face. He's still dealing with that. He's no longer working in the kitchen area. He's now working more to do like engineering type work. Karen Vales, she's working in what's called Division 6, like working with external public lines. Mike Vales, which was her husband, he had worked in renovations for quite a long time. He left the Sea Org. Mary Vogeting, she had been executive in the Flag Service Organization for many years, and she's quite old now. She's holding a lower post over in Flag Crew that handles the restaurants and the hotel rooms and all that kind of stuff. Ron Norton's daughter, she was born into the Sea Org. Ron Norton used to be the captain of the Flag Service Organization, a very well-known Scientologist, Sea Org member. Anyway, she had been a security guard for a long time up in the sandcastle, kind of a room with cameras and screens and all that kind of stuff. And she's eventually was moved out of that. She's working at the furniture mill in Clearwater now. Ben Shore continues to be the COOSA. I was told, yeah, he gets busted, smacked around up and down, but they really don't have anybody else to make the COOSA anybody they trust. And so he keeps getting put on that post. If you see the guy, he always looks like he's in some kind of depression. I don't know if he's ever smiled in his friggin' life. It's kind of a sad looking guy. Anyway, he's still running the Office of Special Affairs, the spy wing, the attack division of Scientology in Clearwater. April Meller, when she got off of the Rehabilitation Project Force after over 10 years, they have her working at the Sandcastle as a director of processing. Charles and Marlene Moniz. Charles used to be in Treasury. He was actually the Treasury Secretary for the Flag Service Organization for some years. His wife, some years back, she got pregnant. They wound up leaving the Sea Org, and apparently they're doing quite well. They have a business, and apparently they're making quite a bit of money and doing well. So I'm glad about that. Nancy Garcia, another old-timer. She works in the staff training org over there at the Coachman Building. Adam and Tiffany Dunn, they left the Sea Org about 4 years ago. Adam had been a registrar working on the money lines there in Clearwater, and he got caught up in all those financial irregularities that was happening, and he just said enough's enough, and him and his wife got out of there, which I'm glad for. So that's kind of a general update. I was curious, I asked some of these leakers, I said, what's the deal at Flag? What were you told about Debbie Cook? She used to be the captain for the Flag Service Organization. She wound up testifying about how David Miscavige had her beat and had her tortured and made her stand in a garbage can with a sign around her neck, a derogatory sign, while water was being poured over her head for like 12 hours. And she went through all kinds of stuff. She testified this in court, and you can see it online if you look it up. So I was curious. I said, what were you guys told as the staff at Flag about Debbie Cook? And they said, basically, it's like a closed subject. Nobody could really ask about it. They were told, they heard like rumors that she had sent some kind of email out to the Scientology public and she got in trouble for that. But beyond that, no information was being circulated around Flag. And it's the kind of thing where when you're at Flag, you can't ask about things like that. You can't start, asking too many questions, or you start being looked at as somebody who needs to be interrogated and looked into and shut up. And it's kind of like if you're in North Korea, you're not going to start asking about the head guy's family or different business within North Korea, or otherwise you get on the list of people to be shut up. And so it's kind of like that at Flag. So I said, how about Shelley? I said, Shelley Miscavige, what's the deal? What were you guys told on that? And one of the leakers told me, who had been at Flag for a lot of years, he said he didn't even know that there was such a person as Shelley Miscavige. He had never heard the name, and that the only way he found out about it was he went off the base and he was approached by a non-Scientology public person who realized that he was connected to Scientology. And he was approached, and the person started asking him what happened to Shelley Miscavige. And he said that's the first time that he even heard that there was such a person as Shelley Miscavige, which then led him to look up information regarding her. SEOG members aren't allowed to have laptops and phones and things like that would connect them to the outside world. But there are definitely SEOG members who have those items hidden that use them to look for information. And so that's a fact. Let's see. So here's the bombshell. I'll give you a little background information. David Miscavige has two statistics. One of them is called assets and reserves, which is basically assets is like property and reserves is cash. So that's one of his statistics, which is why you see so much emphasis being put on buying real estate and all that kind of stuff. That's right down his alley. That's his statistic. His second statistic that he keeps for himself is called Advanced Tech VSD. VSD is Value of Service Delivered. Advanced Tech, this would be like the OT levels, the upper levels of counseling of Scientology. So the value of that being delivered is David's second statistic. That advanced auditing and counseling gets delivered out of the Sandcastle, and it's a division of the Flag Service Organization called Division 4A. And when I was there, RTC, which is the Religious Technical Center or whatever it is, it's David Miscavige's personal staff. And they were they were totally running Division 4A. It wasn't being run by the captain of the Flag Service Organization. She had like little to nothing that she could do over at Division 4A because David's personal staff were running that part of the Flag Service Organization to push his statistics. She couldn't move any person. Now, nobody in Flag Service Organization could come in there and touch any of the staff, move them, approve their day off, anything. It was all controlled by RTC. And what got done by RTC at Division 4A would then be pushed into the rest of the organization. For instance, RTC would tell their staff, you cannot go to a meal like 5 minutes early for transport time. You don't leave your post until the meal actually starts. If your meal starts at 12 o'clock, you don't leave your post until 12 o'clock. It used to always be people would leave a few minutes early so that they get to lunch and they would start the meal at 12 o'clock. But no. And once they did that, that had to be done for the whole rest of the base. If that's the way RTC was running Division 4A, that's what the whole rest of the base had to do, so it didn't make them look bad. Same thing with time off. Instead of giving the staff a day off every once in a while, they would say, okay, you can have the time in the morning on Saturday that you would normally clean your room, you can have that quote-unquote off. Like you won't have to be accounted for in the morning. Nobody's going to have to inspect your room before you get on the bus because it's your day off. But they still had to be at post at the normal time that afternoon, just like they would always. So they really didn't get any time off. But once RTC was running that on Division 4A, that started being run on the whole rest of the organization. I mean, I saw RTC reps with stopwatches down in the call-in unit. And the call-in unit is where somebody has a service paid for at the sandcastle and hasn't arrived yet. They have people that their job is to call those public and get them scheduled to arrive at Flag. Well, RTC, I mean, you would think that these are the highest guys in Scientology, these are personal staff of David Miscavige, they wouldn't be in the call-in unit. I mean, like day after day with stopwatches, like right behind the person that's working and calling. How many seconds is it between when you hung up the phone, you picked up the new folder, you made the phone call, and, you know, it's just like boom, 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 just driving them all for the pushing of David Miscavige's statistic. All right, just so you got that kind of a concept. So anyway, that's the way it was when I was there. I left in 2005, and RTC was like already all over running the Flag Service Organization, managing it directly. And I bring that up because it didn't get less, it got worse. And I'm going to give you an example of something that came up that I was really kind of shocked about, which is that RTC started running directly with one of their staff members all the financial irregularities was happening with what's known as the Chase Wave. It's Chase Bank. There was a whole program that was actually run internationally by Scientology on how to run up credit cards and use those cards to get more credit. And the whole thing was to grab all this money up in credit and then never pay the bank. It was intended to rip off the bank, and it ripped off the banks of hundreds of millions of dollars. It was major, big time. And everybody was all excited because the Flag Service Organization was making like $5 million a week. I was surprised. I said, for real, you guys were making $5 million a week? Yeah, we were making $5 million a week. We had this RTC guy called Webb, who was, just pounding the lines and driving these guys to get that money made and to run this illegal scam on ripping off the banks. Webb, he was born into the Sea Org. He's like a strange little dude. He's like almost like a mutant. Like, I don't think he ever grew to 5 foot tall. He was put into the Commoner's Messenger Org, which is called the CMO. And these are supposed to be the special messengers of L. Ron Hubbard. And they've got all kinds of, power to tell people what's going to happen and where they're going to go. And so Ty was in there, and then he got moved up to the Religious Technology Center, RTC, to work directly as Miscavige's staff. And this guy is a weird dude. He's got a background in liking to grope young women and dry hump them and all kinds of weird stuff. And he's connected into some of the legal cases that are coming up regarding sex trafficking and child trafficking and stuff like that in Scientology. Ty Webb is right in the middle of that, or I should say was in the middle of that, because between that and his involvement with the financial irregularities, this guy has been made to disappear. He's been sent to South Africa, and where he can't be touched and found easily by the legal people here and the governments here in the United States. And so I was like, whoa. I mean, he got a direct connection to David Miscavige and his personal staff to running that whole Chase Wave, all that financial irregularities, all that ripping off of the banks. And I mean, it's no surprise that this guy would be like made to disappear so he couldn't be pulled into the legal stuff. I mean, the same thing was done with Lisa McPherson when she died at the Fort Harrison. The RTC staff that were working directly for David Miscavige, that were like in the center of that and had information, they were made to disappear at the end of that when that started becoming a legal situation, a legal case. So it's not unusual that that would be done. So anyway, that's kind of the bombshell. I was kind of shocked that RTC was literally running that whole financial scam. But there you have it. That's what I'm being told. All right, so that's about it for now. If anybody has any family members in there that they're like worried about, that they've been disconnected from, this kind of thing, if you can send me a message, I'll check into them and try to get you information on what happened to them. And that's about it for now. Bye-bye.